Welcome to Cut Daisies and Unicorns, and this is a Trailer Friday.
Hype me up, Phil. Hype me up.
I know, we are.
Come on,
hyped,
you gotta bring
hyped,
it. You gotta bring it.
It is quite the weekend with Halloween on Sunday and all kinds of festivities happening around our part of the woods here, with things that are happening throughout the weekend. So it's a good opportunity to stop in here to let you know about what we're going to talk about on Sunday. And yes, it's not going to be Halloween because that was last week that we talked about it. So
yeah, Trailer Friday.
Trailer Friday.
Man, it just is amazing how fast time flies.
Time flies.
Are we having fun? Here, yes.
Yes.
Today, yes.
Of course.
In life, well, yes. We're gonna. You know what I was actually thinking about?
Yeah.
Is I could have done a social, social media portrayal of my trip to Atlanta.
Okay.
Pictures of tall buildings, pictures from the 23rd floor, pictures of street life, pictures, and pictures of the barbecue posted on Instagram, pictures of the Mediterranean that was eaten on the day before we left, pictures of Uber drivers, pictures of traffic, pictures of Olympic Park, pictures of the aquarium. I actually do have pictures of the aquarium on my phone. And
Olympic Park?
And I didn't take any at Olympic Park.
Okay.
Yeah. But, then there's the reality.
Yeah.
The reality is that I got up at 3:15 on Monday morning to get on a flight at 7 a.m. to not get to the hotel until 1:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
And my body was like, yeah, we really appreciate that you brought us. And I don't know why my body speaks in the plural, probably because of all the different parts. But
it happens that way.
Hey, by the way, we have lots of foul language to call you as the being within this body, but we're shutting down. And so like Monday, I felt like I got hit by a Mack truck and just kind of a migraine-ish headache. And then Tuesday, it felt like it was just a rollover of like I'm coming out of that fog. And about the time we were ready to leave on Wednesday, then I felt like back to my normal. Like I feel great.
Yeah.
It's Wednesday. It's 55 degrees, and I feel great. But see, that's where you have to be careful. And we're going to talk about catfishing.
We are. It does get brought up in this episode.
And so I'm like, hey, I could catfish this life. Oh my gosh, yeah. And folks, really, this episode coming up on Sunday, really, really cool. I would call it a left hook boomerang to Phil. And that I brought up the topic of analog versus digital.
Right.
Which, as we were taking a break from the podcast and talking about the promo, I'm like, really, this whole episode is an episode exercising dualism. And for those of you who are new listeners, Phil, tell them what dualism is.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at dualism, you're setting up two sides, and there's always going to be two sides then, and so you're always saying there can only be this and there can only be this, and you've got to pick which side you're going to be. And that is always, as dualism, it's dueling. I mean, it's a different word, dual, D-U-E-L instead of
yeah,
but yeah,
D-U-A-L,
right.
Dualism,
and so when you're looking at that sometimes in life we're figuring out that there's always got to be two sides to everything, and there can only be two sides. And so which side are you going to be? And it's then and this is where most of our battles and most of our fighting comes, when people are trying to be able to pick sides. Then there's only two, and you can only have two. And so if you're looking at a bunch of different ways that occurs, you can look at politics, right? So you either get Democrats or Republicans, or conservatives versus liberals. And that's where the two sides then pit against each other, and like you've got to pick a side. Doesn't matter. how you feel about, like you've got to pick a side. Are you going to be liberal? You're going to be conservative. You're going to be Republican or Democrat. And it's like, why we are pitting things against each other in this dualistic nature.
And actually, it was in the election with Ross Perot when he introduced himself as an independent third party that almost made the whole country crumble. Because again, when a third party is introduced and then a majority is pulled over into, and there's splits and divisions, then it was crazy. And a big aha moment, I forget which episode it was, is I was like, hey, everybody, communism or the Communist Party is actually listed on the ballot in the U.S. There's the Green Party, there's the Independents. There's a whole list, and people are like, well, that's not the majority. Right. Well, there is no majority, because there's a lot other things. And so, not to get political in this conversation, we don't get political in the conversation on the episode. Okay, right. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not political, but it is that we are setting up a duel. We're setting up two sides, analog and digital. And you can then, and as I mentioned, there are moments that I just say, depends. I don't want to pick a side.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have to be a side, but yet there is a lot of that we are looking, and I think the conversation is a good one that actually then takes us to a lot of the practical everyday things. Are we just trying to keep everything digital, meaning somewhat separated still?
And just how with technology and the evolution of technology, let's incorporate that word again, because evolution basically is talking about change, whether it's micro or macro. And a lot of times in religious circles, using the word evolution is like this, don't do that because, that's not of Jesus, kind of thing. And really what we want to show people in regards to living, that all of life is changing. I mean, Phil, are you in the same season you were in 5 years ago?
No.
Yeah. How about 10 years ago?
Definitely no.
How about 15 years ago?
No.
Right?
Right.
When I was on the airplane, there was a lady with her little girl, about 3 years old. And you know what I thought to myself? I'm glad you don't have a 3-year-old.
Right. That would be my first thought too.
Seasons change. Right. Seasons change. Now, am I going to be sad about being a grandpa? No. Am I going to be glad that it's Micah and Bree that are having the baby? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Am I going to be really good with those snuggles and the cuddles and the smelling of the baby lotion and all of that stuff? Yeah, but when the baby has a dirty diaper, guess where that baby's going?
Yeah.
Right back to Micah. Mm-hmm. And note to self, Bree.
Self? Yeah. Everyone else, notice.
Yes.
Take notice.
Yeah. But see, so change and evolution. Now, evolution in the sense of Darwinism would say that the weak die off and the strong keep going. Mm-hmm. I'm using the term evolution in regards to change. Right. Moving from the place where I am based on learned experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, and
I hope that somebody would be able to say, I'm not the same as I was.
Well, we actually have an episode about learning and the act of learning,
right,
and pursuing being people who are students of life to be able to learn.
Right.
And yeah, so this episode, and it was hilarious because that is how much Phil's mind has moved into a place. You probably could go back to a time in life when you were very dualistic in your thought process.
Oh yeah, for sure.
See, and so, but then every like A versus B that I put out there, Phil did answer with, well, it depends. I'm like, are we changing your diaper after the podcast? What, it depends. I mean,
Depends.
And so anyway, apparently in senior living, using the term diaper is not a good term, not politically correct.
Right.
But for those with weak bladders and intermittent bowels, at least there is a device that will serve us.
Right.
Okay.
Then we'll catch it.
Yeah. But yeah, so much in this. We did talk about the progression of the podcast, and we're actually just, this will bring everybody in on the secret. We're currently in talks, Phil and I,
Yeah.
in regards to what is the evolution of the podcast.
Right.
And so we're just talking, and we were shooting for about 45 minutes, and we take you to about an hour and a half. But hey, and if you've never shot craps or played cards, there's a little
some
bit of
segments there.
frivolity in regards to that, and some numbers there about that.
Yeah, but even going, so you're talking, I mean, we were in talks talking about the evolution of the podcast. It doesn't mean that what we're looking at and saying, oh, we're failures. No, we've enjoyed what we've been doing. We've been enjoying what we put out. But to be able to say, are we going to be the same, shouldn't be the question that we're trying to seek.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, how are we going to continue to try to bring this message to people? How are we going to, have people still enjoy it without looking at the time frame and saying, oh, I don't have that time.
right.
I don't have that much to invest. So we're not looking at it in that sense, and you shouldn't look at that in the sense the same as your life and looking at the evolution of it. Like
Yeah.
you shouldn't say I hate where I'm at. No, you can still enjoy where you're at and still say I would like to be able to evolve or change.
Or if there's a discontent in your current season, current state, it's a great time to reflect, to be able to say, what would it take for change to occur?
Right.
And that's where we come into, into the conversation. No, I actually, I don't think the conversation was as much about, hey, the podcast is failing, we need to change. That actually never came up. As much as the conversation was revolving around how, if we believe in the message that we are putting together, and if we believe that the conversations that we're having can matter to this generation, and hey, it's out there on YouTube, I mean, for generations to come.
Right.
They're still showing Bob Ross videos, and so like how can we do? And we navigated a lot of technological growth in this year,
Right.
and then we're moving into what are our next steps of development, and that might even be like another word that I would use synonymously with evolution, the development of, and then there, I hope not, but maybe someday there comes to a point of refinement. I'm like anti-refinement. A lot of people can be anti-government. Other people can be anti-institutional. People can be anti-corporate. I'm anti-refined.
Yeah, because refined seems to me like you're trying to shoot for perfection, and I don't think we're ever shooting for perfection.
Could you polish the silver for me, please?
Right. Yeah, and that's the way, I mean, and I know there's probably other ways you can interpret. Like refinement could also mean finer. Like, can we get down to a point? Like there's refined, like pens, where you're looking at a wide, more, Sharpie big versus a fine Sharpie. I mean, there's a refined, I don't know.
For the record, for everyone listening, I'm not swinging at that softball you just lobbed at me.
Sharpie?
No, I have an opinion,
Yeah.
and have worked through in great detail, and that's even like a pun, about pens, markers, and tips. And we're just going to leave that alone, Phil. We're going to leave that alone. All of it we're going to leave alone. We're going to walk right on by this whole derailment. We're going to Keep going. And everybody who's laughing with Phil, yes, we're here to tickle your funny bones.
Right. Oh, man. Yep. Plenty to get into, but we're going to walk on by it. So, if you're thinking going through the episode on Sunday, and yes, there is a lot of this versus this, we're not creating more dualism, but it is part of a conversation that we want you to continue to have as well. So
yeah, giving you options. Now, the other thing is that if you would ask the question and say, "Hey, how can we help the podcast out?"
Right.
I would
That's
just
a good question.
How can we help the podcast out? I would just say, one of the things that you could do is if you go to YouTube to watch the podcast, you could copy the link of the podcast in the share part.
Right.
And you could put that in your Facebook or your Instagram feed. And you could share it with people and say, "Hey, I really enjoyed this. You should give these guys a listen."
Right.
Or you could go to the Facebook page itself, and then as the event comes up, you could be able to share that onto your Facebook or your Instagram.
In a way that it automatically shares. If you're a part of the event, you can say going.
Yeah.
And then that will be automatically also shared to your page as well. So you could share the event. You can also say you're going to the event.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that would help us out just to get the word out. You know what happened last night? Got home from Atlanta and had a lovely, lovely taxi ride to the FJ, parked in the Covenant ... parking lot. I won't get into sharing too much of that personal detail, but
right.
And then got home and Amy said, "I'm kind of hungry." And I said, "Should we order Domino's?" Hashtag not a sponsor.
Right. Not yet.
And so then got online, and one of our favorite delivery persons came to the door, and actually it told me, as it was telling me all the steps, that Sammy was going to deliver my pizza. And I thought, I get to see Sammy again. And we have a continuing conversation. And she asked about Halloween, and I said, Cut Daisies and Unicorns, you got to listen to this podcast. And she got on, and she let us know that she give it a listen and stuff. And so shout out to Sammy and everybody else who's been listening. And we just know that we're coming off of summer into the fall. A lot of busyness people will get holed up, and a lot of people will start binging what's going on. And we're here to help. That when you have binged everything on Netflix and you're like, there's nothing to watch. That what you're going to do is you're going to be like, I'm going to pick up Cut Daisies and Unicorns. I'm going to binge that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's time to binge. Yeah. Winter's kind of a storage time.
Yep.
Like you're inside a little bit more.
Yep.
Find some time. Binge the CDU.
CDU. All right, everybody. Well, we hope that you had a delightful Friday. Everybody's working for the weekend.
That's true.
And we hope that what you do is just share, let people know. And you know what? You can always send us, if there's something you want Phil and I to ponder, you could always send us your pondering idea to cutdaisiesandunicorns at gmail.com.
And we would be happy to consider it.
Oh, yeah. Just because you submit it doesn't mean we're going to ponder it. Right. But the likelihood, because no one has submitted anything, the likelihood of us considering it,
greater.
The consideration will be up there. The likelihood, I'm thinking we've actually put a parameter about what we're not going to talk about. So as long as it doesn't fall in any of those categories, we're good to go.
Right.
Yeah.
So do that. Let us hear from you.
Oh, and for the record, since it's Friday, I'm letting you know that the invasion of aliens on Earth this weekend, totally off. The observation of aliens No, the observation that aliens will have on humanity,
Yeah.
skyrocketing. It's Halloween.
Right.
I mean, they come in just to see what kind of foolishness we're going to have going on.
Tomfoolery.
Yes. And they're actually talking through, as they've developed a way to translate our language into what they understand. They're actually saying they're sending different UFOs to different parts of the country to observe Angel's Night, Devil's Night, and Halloween, and Beggar's Night, and all. I mean, aliens. The Alien Observation Unit has been
High alert.
well. They've been sent out,
Yeah.
and they are. We are under very high observation on this weekend.
But not a takeover.
No, the invasion.
There's going to be a lot of observance, but no takeover.
No invasion this weekend.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't understand, and this is this is my intuitive sense of what's really going on in the universe, because we're two guys flying through the universe, collecting stories, telling stories, and meandering all of the pondering as it occurs.
As it occurs. All right, everybody. You have a great rest of the weekend. We'll see you on Sunday.